The little girl died with a credit score of 4.2. No doctor would take her. No insurance would cover her. No official rejection record, just a number. 4.2. Mild resistance risk. Resistance? What was a 6-year-old resisting? Her mother had written Black Lives Matter on Facebook, all caps, 3 times in a month. The system called it amplified emotional expression, requires behavioral risk assessment. And that was enough? Enough for someone to be denied life-saving care? 6 days later, she was denied hospital admission. 3 days later, she stopped breathing. Not a single line of explanation. No apology. No one took responsibility. Just a name on the record. Then a blank space. 12 hours later, Kash Patel sat in a CNN interview chair, his vest immaculate, navy blue tie, a smile thinner than a razor. "We don't score people," he said. "We just format safety." Safety? Safety for whom? No one asked that question on live television, but out there it was simmering in millions of throats. Unspoken, but impossible to silence. Washington rained in the middle of the night. Water slid down the white walls as if trying to wash something away. In a fourth-floor congressional office, a screen was still lit. Jasmine Crockett stood before her laptop. Amidst the noisy rain, the room's walls became a perfect sound insulator, with only the ticking clock and her steady breathing. A data file just appeared. No sender, no message. The screen opened an SIS score sheet. Victim's name, Marley Thomas, age 6. SIS, or Safety Interaction Score, was once introduced as the ultimate breakthrough to bring America into the era of proactive social prediction. This system doesn't directly monitor. It collects behavior, social media language, typing patterns, movement history, how sentences are phrased in job applications. Everything becomes data. Then an algorithm developed by the private consortium Core scores each individual's safe interaction level. The last line of the data file displayed high emotional response. Family has online community connections. Risk warning, level 3. Immediately below was a small line of text, not part of the system. "I hope you know what you need to do." Jasmine looked away from the screen, walked toward the window, casting a determined gaze into the air. Surely she was about to do something earth-shattering. 18 hours after Marley Thomas's death, a group of 3 people entered Core headquarters as an interdisciplinary assessment team authorized by the congressional office. An independent tech journalist, a Black legal advisor who had worked for the Human Rights Commission, and a South Asian data engineer. All 3 were personally chosen by Jasmine Crockett, and of course they were actually professional spies. Undercover. Each carried a wearable device, a hidden camera, smaller than a coin, recording all system behavior. Crockett closely monitored the surveillance team's actions step by step. The Core internal testing area had no logo, no signs. Everything was white. So white it cast no shadows. They called it the clean room, but the data inside was not necessarily clean. The main SIS system dashboard opened like a transparent cube, rotating slightly in midair. The system divided citizens into 3 levels. Safe, needs monitoring, risky. But the level Crockett was looking for was not among those 3. A passage behind the main server led down to the maintenance basement. Below was an old access port, no longer updated with the interface. The engineer reactivated the command line, and a second dashboard appeared. Black, not rotating, not lit, only 3 columns. Name, behavioral indicators, control code. On the 8th line was a name they had seen before. Thomas, Marley, community expression, code C7.1. They stood in silence for 5 seconds. Each of them knew this was no longer a hypothesis. This was a conspiracy. Then a female employee walked by. Black, gray shirt, no name tag. She said nothing, just placed a scan card on the table and walked straight away. On the card, temporary access, internal G level. Code is live, can be activated. And someone, clearly, wanted them to open the next door. The plan went smoothly. Of course, it couldn't have succeeded without the help of the people of color who secretly protected the intrusion. Before escaping, the female employee appeared again and gave one of the three agents a piece of paper and told him to give it to Mrs. Crockett. It must be given to her personally. When Crockett received the piece of paper inside, there was only one name, Kash Patel. 3 days later, Jasmine appeared at someone's door in the small neighborhood of Deanwood. The apartment had no doorbell. The door had 3 locks, no security cameras, no owner's name. Jasmine Crockett did not bring any staff. She stood alone in front of the yellowed white-painted door, holding a hard document envelope tightly in her hand, her shoulders slightly slumped like someone used to being rejected. The door opened after 4 knocks. There was no greeting. She went to see the person mentioned in that piece of paper, Kash's daughter, a senior programmer in her father's SIS system. She stood there, with messy hair, deep-set eyes, and a face without any concealer. It was clear to everyone that she hadn't slept for several days. In her hand was a glass of water and a TV remote taped together. Her eyes scanned Mrs. Crockett once and then turned away. "Come in," she said, emotionless. The apartment was not messy, but it lacked life. Old newspapers, windows taped shut, a mechanical keyboard with the keycaps removed lay on the table. In the corner was an empty cat litter box. "Do you know me?" Crockett said. "I know," Amira replied, pouring more water into the glass, then pouring it into the sink. She didn't drink it. "And I think you know why I'm here." Amira didn't answer. She just turned back to the chair, sat down, her knees pulled up to her chest. Crockett took a printout of Marley Thomas's SIS dashboard from the envelope. She placed it on the table, without saying a word. 15 seconds later, Amira looked down. Her hand tightened around the remote. "This girl," her voice choked, "is in the hidden layer, right?" Crockett nodded. "You think I wrote that code?" "I think," she said slowly, "your father added it." A laugh burst out, dry as dust. "He called it the hidden evaluation layer." "Can you break it?" "What's the point of breaking it? The child is already dead." "But the next ones aren't," Crockett replied. Her voice was not raised, not pleading, just as certain as a door without hinges. Silence lasted for 30 seconds. Then Amira stood up. She walked into the bedroom. 10 minutes later, she came out, holding a small black, unlabeled hard drive. She gave it to Jasmine. "Original data," she said. "The layer hasn't been deleted." "Are you sure you're not being tracked?" "I designed that system, Senator," Amira said, looking her directly in the eye for the first time. Crockett took the hard drive. It was heavier than she expected. "Don't mention me at all. I just want to be able to sleep." Jasmine left. Amira dragged her tired body and threw herself onto the bed full of blankets and clothes. The computer screen next to her lit up, showing a piece of code with a familiar line. "I hope you know what you need to do." Amira looked at the code for a few seconds and then slowly closed her eyes. 3 hours after the hard drive changed hands, Jasmine posted on X, implying that the girl's death was directly related to the behavioral evaluation score established by some organization. Kash Patel, 1 hour later, began appearing on Fox News. The background screen behind him showed an excerpt from the SIS dashboard, which had been cleaned up and made logical. In it, Marley Thomas's death was recorded as regional data entry error, not related to SIS. Patel did not lie. He recounted it, in a vague, half-true, half-fabricated way. "We extend our condolences for this incident, but it needs to be clarified. Equus Corps does not use SIS to evaluate lives. All decisions belong to the medical authorities and independent processes." He did not deny the system. He processed it. His concluding sentence was a poisoned sugar pill. "Technology does not discriminate. Only the users do. And here I believe in the fairness of numbers." That evening, Crockett's office received over 300 emails, half in support, the other half accusatory. "You are manipulating the crowd. You are inciting division. You are politicizing a personal death." Jasmine sat in front of the screen, the hard drive in front of her, not yet connected. Her hands rested on her lap, her thumb gently tapping her kneecap. A steady rhythm, neither fast nor slow. The office door opened. The secretary entered, holding a stack of documents from the Human Rights Committee. On the cover, Request for verification of SIS content provided by Crockett's office. Jasmine did not look at the file. She looked directly into the secretary's eyes and asked, "What did the committee say?" The secretary swallowed. They advised us to keep the information, at least temporarily, to avoid media disruption. And the party? They haven't issued an official directive, but there's a message from the strategy room. Jasmine nodded, still hadn't touched the hard drive. What was the message? Roughly, if you want to continue playing the resistance hero, you should remember you can't save the world if you lose your seat. Silence. For 6 seconds. Then she turned back to look at the screen. No one needs me to save them, she said, her voice neither cold nor raised. They just need someone who dares to name the knife before it's at their throat. The secretary didn't reply. She left, closing the door softly. Jasmine opened the hard drive cover, connected it to the computer. The screen lit up. The system asked for a password. She entered the characters. The next morning, Kash Patel announced a complete and transparent SIS dashboard on the Equus Core homepage. It had everything the public liked to see. Neat charts, logically presented algorithms, even included interstate comparison data analysis. Marley Thomas was no longer named, no longer C7.1 code, no longer the phrase low-level resistance risk. The girl was replaced by a footnote, incorrect information entry, not related to the SIS database. He didn't lie. He remade the entire truth. He didn't stop there either. A few hours after the announcement, Crockett's office received an order requesting a list of all data sources being processed internally, sent by the Federal Office of Legislative Ethics, with a co-signature from Legal Consulting Group 9, where Kash was once a strategic shareholder. 7 hours later, a complaint was filed with the Congressional Data Security Committee, accusing Crockett of keeping high-sensitivity technology data assets outside federal secure areas. The accusation was accompanied by the signature of an anonymous employee. He didn't sue. He built a process, not to win, but to buy time, to distract her. The media took the bait immediately. CNN opened with, "Did Congresswoman Crockett leak sensitive data to manipulate public opinion?" Fox went straight to it. A congresswoman accused of disrupting the tech market to build a political image. Moderate newspapers called her an emotional and reckless figure. The far right called her a child corpse player. The hashtag #, Crockett hoax climbed to third place in less than 10 hours. But Jasmine didn't react. No live stream. No press conference. Instead, she made 3 calls. The first was to Terry Wu, an AI ethics professor, who Kash had pressured to withdraw from a conference for warning that SIS was programmed to avoid seeing people of color. The second was to Dina Wallace, a mother who lost her child because SIS flagged them as interaction risk, simply for writing their profile in Spanish. The third was to Malik Dorsey, a hacker who was taken to court for hacking into a school system to clear a friend's name, and they still hadn't removed the conviction from his record. Crockett didn't defend. She went on the offensive by letting those without microphones speak. Terry wrote an analysis of the SIS algorithm in easy-to-understand language on Medium, TikTok, Reddit. Dinah recorded a video telling her story. No voiceover, no subtitles. Malik was allowed to process the raw data with one goal, to prove this wasn't a bug. This was a design. 3 days later, the hashtag #, Crockett hoax stalled. Another hashtag quietly appeared. #, this was never neutral. And then the clip from Malik exploded like a blow to memory. He recovered an internal log from 2021. The code labeled emotion bias, signed with Kash Patel's own internal identifier. The labeling target was any user whose search history contained 3 phrases: black self-esteem, peaceful protest, my ancestors were slaves. At that point, no one argued anymore. They started reviewing their own data. 11 days after Machakran Crockett hoax appeared, an illegal live stream signal appeared simultaneously on 7 platforms. No source attached, no censorship. First frame, a dark space, concrete floor, the blue-white light of low-hanging LED lamps. In the middle of the room was an arc of screens, each screen displaying a real SIS profile, real name, real metrics, reason for being flagged. No host, no introduction. Crockett's voice echoed from a single-line speaker. Raw. They call this risk assessment technology. I call this a sentence for those who have never been tried. The first image was a 12-year-old brown boy, flagged as unsuitable for collective environment because he once asked his teacher, "Why isn't there a Black Ancestors Week?" Next was an African-American nurse, coded C3.4, political leanings affecting service quality, for sharing an article about healthcare inequality. Then a Black veteran who served 2 tours was denied a home loan by SIS for unstable social interaction history due to moving addresses 4 times in a year. At the 17th screen, the camera stopped. In the center was an empty dashboard with only one line. Person no longer exists in the system. Crockett didn't explain. Amira stood backstage, her eyes fixed on the data being pushed out. Each encrypted packet sent simultaneously to 41 independent news organizations, 32 civil rights groups, and a network of Black legislators. No one said anything. No one cried. Only the screens lit up. As if for the first time, the numbers knew how to resist. 12 minutes after the signal went off, Kash Patel held an emergency press conference. He didn't pound the table, didn't yell, just asked one question, looking directly into the camera. If everyone now has the right to self-publish security data, what is the definition of America? That question, for only half a second, then collapsed on itself, because at that very moment, the official SIS account was leaked. The entire original system had been backed up and released globally. For the first time, anyone could check what score they were given and why. On the 3rd day after the leak, a former technical advisor for Equus Corps sent an email to Crockett's office. No subject line, no name. The content was only 4 lines. They once asked me to add a C7.1 code layer to every user with the keyword community justice in their search history. I refused. They removed me from the project, but I still kept that month's system log. 6 hours later, a second email appeared, this time from a legal employee of the Federal Algorithm Review Committee. She wrote, "I was once assigned by Kash Patel to review the possibility of legalizing SIS as a citizen screening tool for defense contracts. I remained silent because I thought it was just a draft, but now I see they've already signed it." And then, like a shattered mirror, piece after piece of reflection fell down. An internal engineer requested to testify. A center-right legislator demanded the restoration of federal technology oversight. A communications director at Equus Corps resigned, then sent a single tweet. "I don't want to teach my children how to tolerate the system I helped build." Crockett still didn't make a statement, didn't appear before the press. She spent her time reviewing each report from the volunteer investigation team, those who began matching SIS data with cases of denied emergency services over the past 4 years. And among hundreds of names, there was one line that made her stop. Crockett, Jasmine, SIS code 5.1, medium resistance risk. Below that line was a special warning marked in red. Potential to use legislative position to incite restructuring of current power data. She looked at the line for nearly a minute. No surprise, no anger, just a slight smile, as if, finally, the mirror had decided to tell the truth. Kash Patel returned after 7 days of silence. The press conference was held at a pro-government research institute. No Q&A, no live broadcasts. The press list was carefully selected. Most had previously called SIS America's new safety nervous system. Kash walked out. A smoke-colored suit, a cool blue tie, an unusually calm expression, but those who knew him well knew. One corner of his mouth twitched slightly slower, as if the smile had to overcome a crack. He began with phrases he had memorized: misrepresentation, editing, loss of data control, risk of incorrect socialization. We do not deny the complexity of the system, but please remember, any tool can be misused, even by those who built it. People didn't immediately understand what he meant, until the clip appeared on the screen behind him, extracted from Equus Corps' internal camera, recording a meeting in 2021. Kash's voice, slightly distorted but clear. "We don't need fairness. We need cleanliness." A moment of silence. Kash looked up. His eyes narrowed slightly. No panic, no denial, just a very soft exhale, as if he had known this would happen, but didn't think it would be. From her. "Edited," he replied, his voice calm, but only he knew. The KP.03 code could only be retrieved by someone who had core admin privileges. And those privileges he had given to Amira 3 years ago. As a gift, as unspoken trust. He didn't leave the podium, but his right hand intertwined with his left, unconsciously clenching his knuckles. His fingernails were white. On social media at the same time, the log confirming the authenticity of the excerpt was posted simultaneously. The SIS system confirmed internal recording, speaker KP.03, retriever apt.admin.key, revoked. Apartment Amira Patel. In the congressional office, Jasmine received a message through a secure channel. Lucia Reyes, SIS 3.6, community tendency, code C 6.3. They refused her insurance. She died after 19 days without treatment. He called it an indirect death. I used to believe my father. Now I believe data needs to defend itself. Jasmine read the last line slowly. She didn't need to ask who sent it. Kash knew well, and for the first time in 20 years, he truly fell into a state of being out of control. On November 4th, a special congressional hearing was open. Topic: urgent assessment of the fairness and transparency of citizen scoring systems. The first person invited to speak, Jasmine Crockett. She walked into the hearing room without a lawyer, without an assistant. Only a single USB in her jacket pocket. And a list, not a draft of her speech, but 317 names. 317 people whose vital services had been denied by SIS. She didn't begin with procedure, didn't read a biography, didn't say thank you. "I'm not here to tell stories," she said. "I'm here to name names." The screen behind her lit up. The first line appeared, Sarah Gomez, SIS 3.8, denied heart surgery. Next, Malik Dorsey, SIS 4.1, blocked from engineering scholarship. Next, Marcus Floyd, SIS 3.5, denied housing due to high likelihood of changing residence. No one spoke, no one moved, no one interrupted. Crockett looked directly at the row of congressmen opposite her. Some bowed their heads, some looked away, some stared, but no one dared to interrupt. "They didn't die because of sin," she said. "They died because they didn't meet the index that matched the fear of those who controlled the data." Her voice was not high, not trembling. She didn't stop to wait for applause. She just reached into her pocket, took out the USB, and plugged it into the projector port. The screen switched to the final slide, a control panel. In the middle of the screen was a red button. Below, confirm release of original SIS data, global routing. She paused for exactly 4 seconds, then pressed. No declaration, no dramatic gesture, no "I sacrifice for," just an action, exactly like a command America had never seen issued by a person of color, a woman, and a parliamentarian at the same time. 42 hours after Jasmine Crockett pressed the button, the SIS system was officially suspended nationwide. On the same day, Kash Patel flew out of D.C., landing at a private resort in the Swiss mountains. No press, no announcements, no companions. In a glass room overlooking the glacial valley, he sat alone for 7 hours, his hand never leaving the news screen. No food, no sleep, just reading the headline over and over. SIS system officially collapses by the exact code Kash once wrote. He tried to counterattack. A legal team hired from Berlin began filing a countersuit against Crockett for leaking national defense technology data. But the federal court dismissed the case within 48 hours. Reason: the data was no longer classified as private property, but as investigative evidence of human rights violations. That evening, Kash received an email. No sender address, no message, just one attachment. A screenshot of the last dashboard line of Lucia Reyes, Amira's ex-girlfriend, with SIS code C6.3, and the note, treatment refused, risk of ideological incitement. He looked at that line for nearly 10 minutes. His hand never left the glass of melting ice wine. Then he made a phone call. Amira, he said, his voice trying to remain calm, if you think this will make me collapse, then you're mistaken. Silence on the other end. He continued, but I will apologize. 4 more seconds of silence. I apologize for not seeing you take the key from my hand from the very beginning. After that, he hung up, and for the first time in his career, Kash Patel did not show up. No counterattack, no power restructuring. He withdrew from the background, and the name Kash Patel, from being the architect of the 21st century behavioral control system, became a footnote in American technology history, erased by the very hand that once approved it.